Reserve list prices are flat or in the negative. People are taking opportunities to grab these cards as quick as they can because the sales are showing it. Let's go ahead on today's episode of Reserve List Card Watch and take a look at some undervalued cards. The reserve list is like potato chips. You just can't eat one. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here. Thanks for hanging out with me on the channel today. You know, with the sales being negative to flat and the amount of attention being brought to other products, there is a larger segment of the player base out there who is starting to hit up some of these reserve list cards that are undervalued right now. Some are as low as 50% of where they were back in 2021. Some are even lower. And on today's video, we will take a look at some of these cards. But you have to remember, when prices get this low, it starts attracting the silent buyers, the groups, the hedge fund people who see an opportunity to grab a lot of these cards in one foul swoop, which is why we're seeing so many mini buyouts. And you know what, on my Hot Top 10 Reserve List Edition on Sundays, the sales are starting to uptick on things like dual lands that are making it onto my list with 20, 30 sales in a week. And that's a significant number when you're talking these cards going for $400 or $500 a card. There's a lot going on there. And it's not just people going for the near mint, although there is that segment of the player base. It's also those people who said, I can buy a heavily played Taiaga for like $250 and I can have that forever in my commander deck and I don't have to keep going back and buying something else. It's attracting a lot of attention. So let's go ahead on today's video. Let's take a look at some of these underpriced cards. You guys will let me know what you think in the comment section because I love to see what people talk about when we're hitting up the reserve list. Let's get started. We're going to start out today in Weatherlight, everyone, when you take a look at Winding Canyons. Now, the average price says $27.98. That's US. It's around $40 here in Canada. €21.45 to get that card into your house. But this one's been as high as almost $100. Okay, remember that. Almost $100. This card is almost 2/3 off its original price. This stuff is insanity when you see it this low. Great artwork on the reserve list. And let's see what this card does. Well, it taps to add colorless mana to your mana pool. So it actually taps right away with no drawback for your mana supply other than it doesn't actually provide you with a color. But it has an added ability of 2 and tap it. And until end of turn, you may play a creature card whenever you could play an instant. So that means you can flash these suckers in. You can bring them in on opponent's turns when they least expect it. This goes into a lot of commander decks already. It's a great throw-in for the big beasties that nobody has. You know, nobody expects to see that thing coming at you, and then they forget you have Winding Canyons, you pop something in, and you go, oh, here I am. That's what I'm talking about. Now, when you're looking for this card, at these low prices, I would recommend hitting up a near mint copy. Spend the extra couple of bucks. I preach this all the time because it's just such a good value right now. It just can't be understated how great some of these cards are to get them in near mint, hold on to them, and they're on the reserve list. They're not coming back around. And when stocks are down like this, like in the reserve list stock market, this is a great time to grab this product. All right, guys, our next card is going to be Mudslide. This is an Ice Age card. We're not talking big money here. $4 is the average price. The market says $3.62, $6 here in Canada, and it's €4.12. This thing is almost back to where it was in 2019. We're almost back at that exact same price, okay? When you look at this card, it is 1 red generic and 2 other, and it's an enchantment. But it says, creatures without flying do not untap during their controller's untap phase. At the end of his or her upkeep, each player may pay an additional 2 per creature to untap creature without flying, okay? So you think about that. Yeah, it's not going to affect creatures with flying. I get that, okay? But the idea that you have a big land-based army of creatures marching across the battlefield and a mudslide comes and wipes these puppies out. They're all stuck and they can't do anything unless somebody stops to dig them out. For $4, you're telling me you wouldn't play that in a commander deck trying to paralyze somebody else? I think it's pretty cool, especially if you build a deck specifically based on flying and totally go over top of their heads, and they better have an answer for that enchantment. Great card, super cheap. Now, our next card is Diamond Valley, if you can believe it. Now, this card is, of course, Arabian Nights' first expansion of Magic the Gathering, okay? All based on, like, the old Arabian Nights type storybooks and stuff. But Diamond Valley does get played in Commander. It says tap to sacrifice one of your creatures in exchange for a number of life points equal to the toughness. Note that this ability can be used after blocking has been declared. I know they specifically said it back then, kind of strange. But when we're looking at Diamond Valley, picture those other types of cards out there that if you have 100 life or more, you win the game, 40 life more, you win the game. And there are lots of creatures with super heavy toughness. I remember a guy who would use this with Wall of Stone. And he actually kept recycling the creature, so he's gaining like 8 life a turn, which back in the day paralyzed a lot of our decks. We didn't have an answer for it. Now, the average price for this card is expensive. It is Arabian Nights, after all. $989.99 US, okay? That means for a near mint copy, you're paying about $1,200 to $1,300 Canadian. But you can find this for less. That's for a near mint copy. Even on things like TCG Player, eBay, you can find this for around $700 for moderately played, $600 and change for heavily played. If you just need a copy, I know $600 is a lot of money. It's like 2 boxes of Double Masters 2022, I get you. But if you were always looking for this card and you want a real one and not a proxy, this could be the opportunity you're looking for to snag this stuff before it hits that next level when the markets rebound and this card becomes a $2,000 card and we have those regrets. Trust me, I am one of those people. I don't have it for my collection yet. Now the next card, Rock Hydra. All right, revised edition, because the unlimited is about $60, I'll be honest. $60 for near mint. This for near mint is only $6.27 and it is on the reserve list, so it's kind of awesome. Now the market price is $5.95. It's €3.70 to get that card to your house. It's about $7 here in Canada, so there's not much difference for some reason. Now, this thing was like a double red mana plus X, and that's how big this thing came in. But it says put X +1/+1 counters, heads, on the Hydra. Each point of damage the Hydra suffers removes a head. So people used to bolt them to knock some heads off. You know, you do all kinds of funny things. I guess nowadays might be a magic missile. Unless the controller spends 1 red to grow that head back. During that controller's upkeep, they can pay 3 red to grow an entirely new head. So you could actually buff this guy up over time to make him crazy. And then we do things like berserk him and make him all like insane and just maul people. This is actually not the worst creature. It's easy to get out, it can be pumped up later, and it doesn't cost a lot to buy this card. Most people kind of laugh at a lot of the Hydras nowadays, but this overall is actually one of the better ones to get for its cost basis. I mean, it's pretty cheap, it can be buffed up, it fits into a lot of red decks, and you know, for 3 red mana you can get it out and then start pumping heads onto it. I like this card. At worst, it gets out there and somebody kills it, and they had to use something to take care of it. Alright, our next card is of course Argivian Archaeologist, and this card is not being put in today's list as a mention to buy. It's about the price change because people noticed this card was too cheap. They took advantage of it and they bought this card out. And it is still not back on any of the things I can get my hands on things like TCG Player. I have no access to it. I have to go on eBay right now to get a copy. There are some copies available on the US side only version of TCG Player. But for the average Joe looking for it, you're spending $300+. This is an expensive card. It has not come back, and it's not done yet, I think. If this comes up and you get a chance to get this cheap, I definitely recommend hitting this card up. I remember buying them for 30, 40, 50 bucks, and then I stopped right before 2021 when this thing just took off, and now it's even worse, guys. Okay, so I'm not saying dive in and buy this card. I'm saying wait on this one to see if the price comes back down. It's an amazing card to bring back artifacts, but that price just seems really high, and I don't know if it's going to stick yet. So let's see if this one comes back down the next 90 days. We got to wait a while, but it may start slipping down. Now look at this one here. We got Powerleech from Antiquities. This card here is $39 US. The market is $30.26 US, and it's €18.51 to get this card in your house. It's had a bit of a spike lately, and that's due to sets like the Brothers War coming up, where a lot of artifact heavy things may be in play. But not only that, I've seen people put this when it says opponents artifacts, right? So people are using this thing in a whole bunch of commander games and they just go around gaining a couple life here and there, but it starts adding up. So I've seen people using this more often than not, so way to go. It's a cheap card, beautiful artwork, and it's still quite an affordable reserve list card. And again, people are taking notice because, you know, Brothers War is going to bring a lot of artifacts out. People are expecting more artifact creation decks and stuff inside of, you know, commander format, so they're buying it in anticipation of what the price might spike to. You know, we can wait a little while on this one, but I think it's going to stay up there. Now our next card is Veteran Bodyguard, revised edition. Again, the unlimited copies are pretty expensive. They're like $60, $70. So I would say right now, go for a revised if you just need a play copy. If you want something really cool and unique, you got to spend like $150 on a beta, or you're going to have to, dive in there and get yourself an unlimited for $60. This card only reached the high of around $8 or $9. It's 50% off at this point with $4.10 US. The market price is about the same. €2.65 to get this card into your house. And locally, it's sold out. So that's kind of funny. Now, the Veteran Bodyguard was used by players like me back in the day, and I do have one in my Commander deck because he's a 5 casting cost 2/5, but damage that hits you hits the Bodyguard instead. If you have ways of keeping that Bodyguard alive, if you have ways of pumping him up, making him harder to kill, it's a great damage absorption device inside of a Commander game. So I like to have cards like this around because nobody plays with them, and it's kind of funny when they see it, they kind of go, huh? And they have to think twice before what they're going to do. And whatever they're about to have happen, they got to rethink their plan. I love that. Okay, Veteran Bodyguard, super cheap. And again, I would go for near mint. Now, King Suleiman, Arabian Nights again. This guy's totally plummeted down from his highs. There are a couple of copies local. You're looking at this one being around $420 US for near mint. But look at that market price. Look at the disparity there. If you go on eBay, you can find cheaper copies. Now, the funny thing about him is, he taps to like destroy Afrits or Djinns, but that's also in today's world what? Changelings, shapeshifters, things that copy other cards or every single creature type at the same time. This guy's taking them out with no drawback. He doesn't take a mana to do it. He's just a 2 casting cost 1/1 king who can kill Djinns and Afrits, which means he can affect a lot of players' decks when they least expect it. And he's reserve list, and he's from Arabian Nights, the first expansion ever. Look at that price dump. That price dump is massive. All right, let's go check out the next one here, and that is going to be Ragnar. Get it? Remember that from like the old, yeah, you guys get me. Legends! All right, I always like this card, and I have played it in some old decks because it regenerates a target creature. So in a deck I was play testing for my commander, I was regenerating opponents' creatures who I didn't want their creatures to die. And it was kind of annoying, the player who was killing everyone. So he eventually killed me off, but it was kind of cool to be able just to regenerate a target creature and keep things going. Again, this price is drifting down. It may hit as low as $50. You're going to have to keep an eye on a card like this if you're interested in it. 2/2 for 3 is not great, not bad by today's standards. But that regeneration ability, yeah, 3 different mana types, but it's still a lot of fun to have it work out for you. Now, next card, Willow Satyr. Guys, I like this card. I talked about it a long time ago when it was like $40, $50. People took notice. It did get bought out a lot of times, and it really hasn't come back to the market the same way. But it's still not a horrible price, and it is slowly drifting down from that $275, $300 range. We're down about half price roughly. It's going to keep drifting. Wait for it. Go for a beat-up copy if you want one, just to say you have one in a deck. It's always good to mess around with people's legendary stuff, right? I can't help myself. It brings a chuckle to my face. And of course, Season of the Witch. This card is flat-lined out. It is a blast to have this card in play. The artwork is just awe-inspiring horror. Kind of reminds me of back in the day, Halloween type stuff. And it's at a good price. It's not bad. Not great, but not bad. So those are the cards I wanted to show you all today. There's a lot of variety out there on the reserve list right now waiting for people. And I like to preach this out to people and let them know what's going on because so many people get short-sighted and they don't think future. When you buy cards like this, they're not coming back. And the history on them is like a slow-moving, sometimes fast-moving, but generally it just always etches up over time. Even the new lows are not the previous lows, right? Every year it's a little bit different. They slowly work their way up. You know, one day, years to come from now, there won't be the availability we're seeing now. As people buy these up, even the low-end reserve list cards getting bought, when they're being bought and hoarded together, they'll get passed on to family. They'll get passed on to your kids. They get put into collections, and they get held on to. Mementos of a great long history of this game. And most people don't really think about it, but you might want to have 1 or 2 pieces of this. It's pretty epic stuff to go back and learn about. Reserve list, gotta love it. Thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Can't wait to read your comments in the comments section. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Thanks a lot for watching. And hey, 80 subscribers to go. We are counting it down to the 10K party. Thank you, everyone who's helping make it possible. Have a great day. What's up, those fantastic patrons of mine? You guys are awesome. Big shout out to all the fantastic patrons on the channel who support me each and every day. You guys rock. Another one bites the dust. Boom, boom, boom. Another one bites the dust. And it won't be long till 10K comes along. Hey! 10K comes along. Because another one bites the dust. Hey, that was a first take. Not bad, guys. Have an awesome day out there, guys. My day's rocking. I hope yours is too.